Flosstube. My name is Jess and this is Alfie. I'm Cross Stitch Jess here on Flosstube and over on Instagram, and this channel is all about cross stitch. So if that's your jam, welcome back if you're coming back. Yeah, today's going to be a whip parade, so I'm going to show you all of my whips, all 31 of them. It's going to be fun. No, for real, I'm quite excited for this because when I first started Flosstube and did a whip parade, I then had like a month of, oh my god, I'm so excited to work on all the things. So yeah, I think this is going to be good. I know lots of people find new Flosstubers through whip parades, so very quick, I guess, background introduction before I get stuck in. I am, how old am I? 33. Honestly, this is normal. I'm not going to pretend that I'm normally more organised than this. I'm 33 and I live in Birmingham in the centre of the UK. I learnt cross stitch when I was quite small, when I was probably about 8, I think. I did cross stitch club at school and I don't have a handy, it's on the other side of the room, but if you're interested in seeing some of my first cross stitch, I showed that and also some stitching from my mum and my great grandmother at the start of my finish parade, so previous video to this one, go check that out if you want to see my first ever stitch. I then didn't stitch for like 20 odd years and picked it back up again, not so much during COVID and lockdown because I worked throughout, like I worked remotely, but probably 2021, I think. And I think I just saw like Facebook adverts for Lovecrafts and thought, oh, I'll give that a go. Bought a small kit and loved it. Bought bigger kits, but found that it was a challenge to get kits that like matched my style. Like I quite like bright colours, quite modern designs. And yeah, so I bought a couple of big kits, finished one of them and gifted it to my mum, and then found the second one a real slog. But at that point found Facebook communities and groups and things about stitching, and in particular snarky and modern cross stitch and embroidery, I think it's called, which kind of opened my eyes to like Etsy and buying digital patterns and like hand-dyed fabrics and fancy flosses, and suddenly it was a whole new world. And yeah, everything that I have that's still a whip is pretty much from that point onwards. I think that's it really. I started this channel not so much, well, I don't know, I'm autistic and I had a day at work where I did a presentation, and I used to do that kind of thing completely effortlessly. I just wouldn't bat an eyelid, I didn't do it, fine, no problem. We had quite a big presentation and it went really well. The people we were presenting to loved it. My colleagues said it went really well. We were co-presenting and also colleagues who were watching, but I was basically having a panic attack the whole time. So came home, happened to be watching Flosstube and decided I needed to do something to like practice presenting and get more comfortable with that moment of like, shit, that wasn't what I meant to say. Oh my god, honestly, it is what it is. Yeah, so started Flosstube. I kind of expected like maybe a couple of friends would take pity on me and watch. I did not expect, like, I think it's up to about 4,800 views now, my original video, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And it's been like a really nice added bonus finding the stitching community, particularly on Flosstube. It is amazing. I've made new friends, I've chatted to people from all over the world. It absolutely blows my mind. So I guess before I get stuck in, thank you if you're watching this for giving it a shot. Just thank you. I hope you like what you see. I think if other people enjoy it, that's a bonus. And one of the nicest things that I found, I had like a really lovely message from someone yesterday. I don't want to name names in case they don't want to be named, but basically saying that where I had talked about things like I've had health stuff, I've had mental health stuff, I've got the autism thing, which is still very recent. I only got diagnosed with that 2 or 3 years ago. But that like hearing someone talk about that stuff so openly had been really helpful for them this year. So yeah, if that even applies to one person, then I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that that's a side effect of me trying to not be so panicky in presentations. Anyway, that's enough. That's nearly 6 minutes of waffle, so let's get stuck in. As I said, I've got 31 WIPs. I have put them in order of start date, and I will, for anyone who is new, caveat that 24 of those 31 starts are from the past month. So I did 12 starts of Christmas running up to Christmas Day, and then I did 12 by 12 literally yesterday. So not many of these, well, you'll see. I think there's good progress on a lot of them, all things considered, but yeah, bear with. I also wanted to throw in, before I start on the WIPs, a little bit about my plans for the year, and some of this requires reflecting a little bit on last year. So if you have watched the stats part of my finish parade, you'll have seen I started a lot of things, finished lots of things, and then showed all of those finishes. A lot of them were quite small. At the start of last year, I decided to do something called Stitch from Stash, which is done through a Facebook group, which I'll link below in case you're interested, in case it sounds like it's for you. And the idea is you give yourself a monthly budget. So I think I gave myself £10, and then you earn, and I say this in air quotes because it's your money either way, but you earn credit for your cross stitch pot by finishing things. And yeah, I mean, this time last year I didn't really have much stash. I'd only just really gotten into the idea of hand-dyed fabrics. I have I am working on a master set of DMC, but I probably had about a third to half the colours, and I didn't really have much of a stash of patterns. So I jumped on this bandwagon because of the yay, new year, excitement, new things, and honestly, I feel like it just gave me bad habits. Well, not bad habits, I don't know, to some people this might be great, but it basically encouraged me to focus on the small projects that I knew I could get a finish on, and that meant that I neglected all my bigger projects. So I finished all of the small stuff throughout the year, both that I brought into 2024 and that I started during 2024. For that first 6 months, it was just finishing all the small things, which was exciting and great, and lots of small things and lots of finishes, great. But it did mean that the big ones got completely ignored pretty much the whole year. So part of doing my 24 starts in December was to re-inject some small, travel-friendly, grab it and go kind of projects into my WIP box, because it was getting quite frustrating that, like, when I go and get my hair done, for example, I've always taken stitching with me, and I just didn't really have anything that I could just chuck 1 or 2 colours in the bag and take it. Like, everything was big and needed a pattern on a tablet and had lots of colours and lots of confetti and stuff. It was just not working. So that's the reason for a lot of the new starts, and the reason for recounting all of this. Going into 2025, I'm not really setting any goals in terms of I want to finish this project, or I want to have so many finishes, or so many starts, or anything like that. I'm going with the vibe of I want to work on my bigger project when that is feasible. So for example, my first project, which I'll show you in a second, is quite a lot of confetti. It's 100 colours ish, 90 or 100, something like that. It needs pattern keeper. It's a massive piece of fabric. It's not really travel friendly. So when I am at home and I have space and I have my Lowery with the tablet stand, which is what my phone is currently perched on, and I have access to my DMC storage right next to my stitchy spot, I will prioritise working on this over small travel projects. The same goes for everything else, like the things that need a scroll frame or that have lots of colours or that need good lighting, so things like my very few projects that are on linen that need good lighting to be able to see the holes. Like prioritising working on those when I can, be that when I'm at home or when I'm at like a whole weekend stitchy event where it's feasible to take most of my DMC collection, that kind of thing. And then at the other end of the scale, having some of my more travel friendly projects be kitted up with scissors in the bag, colours that I need in the bag, so they are literally a grab the project bag and go. So yeah, if I get to this time next year and I have no finishes and I have no starts, I mean, if I have some starts, I'm also chill with that, but I'm not aiming for starts and finishes and that kind of thing. What I really want is some progress on my big pieces. I don't think it's feasible for me to finish any of these, and I think if I made that my goal, I would find it stressful. In my finish parade, I worked out I did approximately 180,000 stitches this year. Last year, because it's now next year. God, it's confusing. But yeah, 180,000 stitches, which is about 15,000 a month. This, I'll talk about it when I get to it, but it would be almost like a third of my stitches for the year, and I don't have the attention span to work on something for that long, basically. Who knows, maybe I'll get really engrossed in it and it'll work out and I will have a big finish, but I'm not aiming for that, and that would be like a random nice bonus rather than like a disappointment if I don't hit it. Okay, enough with that. I will get into the WIPs. So first up we have this one, which I've now waved at you several times. Let's actually show you what it is. This is Beyond the Horizon, charted by UnconventionalXstitch, art by aida. I'll put it on the bottom, I might have misremembered that one slightly. This until recently was my biggest project. It's 122,500 stitches, I think. It's 350 by 350. I really love this. This was my first, one of my first, I want a big colourful modern project. As you can tell, I've stitched the 939 extreme cross country style. I'm trying to make sure that the project gets the best light here, but it means I'm sat here in shadow. Yeah, I've stitched that dark blue extreme cross country style. I think there were like 42,000 stitches. I finished that December 2023. I burnt myself out on it. I did 14,000 stitches in 3 or 4 weeks and didn't want to look at it again. So it's not had much work this year. I think a little bit of work on this nose cone of the spaceship, and I then last month, end of November I think, there was like one colour that I was missing in this corner, so I filled that in and then worked on what is the next page. I've never really worked page by page. Fold this up a bit, make it easier to hold. I've never really done page by page stitching before. I don't think it's for me. I think extreme cross country is always what I come back to. Sorry if you can hear the scratching. Alfie is trying to make a nest in his bed. Yeah, I don't think page by page stitching is for me. I think I'm more of a cross country or extreme cross country kind of person. Alfie, what are you doing? In November and December I toyed with different options for this. I considered doing like a aim for 5,000 stitches a month to get it finished. I considered aim for 1,000 stitches a week to get it finished, or towards a finish. I don't want that pressure, so this will be one of my big work on it when I can at home projects. I've got a spinner with those big, not really suitable for travel, confetti filled projects, but I'm not gonna spin it like every Flosstube or every week or month or anything. It's there for when I'm feeling indecisive. And I've said this before on Flosstube, sometimes my husband is great for this, and I love him to bits because he does not mind being this role for me. You know that moment when you're trying to order takeaway with a partner and you ask them what cuisine they want, and like I'll say I don't mind, but as soon as he says he wants Thai, I'm like, not that. Sometimes I need someone else or something else, in the case of the decision wheel thing, to make a decision so that I have that gut reaction of not that. I don't know what I want, but it's not that. So the wheel is there to help when I've got one for like at home projects. And I think I've got one with all of my projects on so that they hopefully all get touched this year. But project number 1, this might be a long one. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, number 1. Number 2. Number 2 is my one printed project. This was I think it was a Christmas gift from my in-laws 2 or 3 years ago. It would have been 2022, I guess, because I think I then started it almost straight away. Or was it 2021 because I started it in the middle of 2022? I'm not sure. It's a bit hard to tell with a printed pattern, but hopefully you can see this sort of dark, richer area of colour is where I've stitched so far. I don't stitch on this very often. I'm not in a rush to finish it. It's quite nice for when this has been what I've resorted to for haircut stitching and that kind of thing. It's quite nice for things like on a plane, if you're going on holiday, or by the pool. Yeah, it's 3 strands, and you can see on the back it's a bit better of a visual of how much I've done. It's 3 strands. It's quite stiff aida. The needle it came with is like the worst needle I've ever experienced. But I think I found my stride a little bit with this one earlier last year, 2024, in terms of halving the length of the threads. Like normally I'd use a very long one and fold it in half with the needle trapped in the loop. For this I'd just been using 3 very long strands, and the thread it's cheap thread, it's not DMC. I was getting lots of tangles, they were getting very uneven, I was finding it very frustrating, so shorter lengths is definitely the way to go with that one. But no particular plans to work on it, progress it, get it done. That's what it is. It just lives in a plastic folder. Done the smart thing and got the dates up. So the Sun and Moon project I just showed you was started at the start of 2023. So actually the Beyond the Horizon is my only 2022 project at this point, which is quite cool. I think I UFO'd a few and finished a few to get those moving, but I do want that to be a particular, like, I want it to get some work. I don't want it to still be here in like 4 or 5 years time, because it's doable. It's very doable. Right, next up, Gaming by Charlie Darling. This was July 22nd, 2023. It's the first of my GeckoRouges, and this one is here. So again, I've done this one extreme cross country, doing that darkest colour first and then working down from the top, filling it in. So very similar to Beyond the Horizon. This didn't get much work this year. I pulled it out in May and tried putting it on scroll bars, and I forgot that I'd been working on this sideways. So when I then put it on scroll bars this way, my X's were all the wrong way, so that all had to get ripped out. This is meant to have a fully stitched white background. If I hold it up close, you might be able to see just the shadow there, where the edge of where I've stopped the white is. I am seriously considering ripping out this area, this shading. Probably easier to show you on the actual. So you see that sort of grey faded background. I'm really tempted to not do that. It would mean ripping out several thousand stitches. But like, it's a lot, and I don't necessarily love the gradient of greys. Like, some of them are more sort of bluey grey, some are more like a yellowy, almost greeny grey. I just don't, yeah, just not feeling it. Let me know what you think. Would you carry on with that background or consider ripping out and just stitching like the key elements rather than the fade? Yeah, project number 2. This is another one that's probably on that. It's a bit of a faff to work on, so work on it at home, just to show you how it comes and how it's being stored. The GeckoRouge kits come in, well, I think it's optional, but I chose for mine to come in these gift boxes. The bow's getting a little bit loose, but and the threads come on these thread cards. I've braided the ones that I'm using, and then this is all of the white for that background, which I'm not doing. I've started reading this for other things. They don't give you the thread numbers, so I don't know if it's like white or blank or the other one, the B52 whatever. So I don't necessarily want to just like merge it into my normal thread stash. My eyes aren't, like, my colour differentiation isn't good enough to be able to tell just from looking at them next to swatches. But for standalone projects that just need one white, just use that instead. Right, that's project number 3. Number 4 is another GeckoRouge. Just want some scroll bars. This is a really piddly little start, but this is my second time stitching this project, so oh no, what's happened? There we go. So this, I started this December 27th 2023, so this would have been last year. I did 2023 I did 12 starts and 12 finishes of Christmas. They weren't necessarily big project finishes. Some was like I fully finished something that was already stitched, but yeah, this was one of those starts. In fact, this was 2 of those starts. So this is quite a common, it's a very popular one. So the art is by Lorna, Laine, and it's charted by GeckoRouge. And what I stitched last year was just the bee. I think I included pictures of that on my finished parade if you're interested, or possibly the real thing around July. I think that might have been before I started Flosstube. But yeah, so I started just the bee to gift to my friend Becca, and that's now finished and been gifted. And then I was going to restitch the whole thing for myself. So, oh god. The way I've done that, the kit I'd ordered was 2/118 count, and I since found that I love 20 count, 1/1. So stitched the bee 1/1 on 20 count, and now stitching the whole thing again 1/1 on 20 count, so the threads should last. That is all I've got. My goal for this last year was to try parking, which, as you can see, I did. I did not enjoy it. It was not for me. I think I've also realised I don't necessarily love working on scroll bars. For certain projects, like my beaded Tangled Fire last year, absolutely essential, couldn't have done it without it. But I think for everything else, it's going to be back to working in hand. So this probably needs to come off the scroll bars. And again, this is one that's not ideal to travel with, just because the threads are on those thread cards. I did start putting them onto Annie's keepers and braiding them as I was doing this the first time round. But honestly, I just couldn't be bothered at the end. So I have kept them on the floss cards. And this one, I'll show them backwards because I have written notes and things, and you'll see I've got like my tatty working threads, but there are like, compared to the gaming one, which had I think 13 or 14 colours, this one's got 90. So and that's in addition to these. So 5 floss cards worth of colours is not very travel friendly at all. So this one is another work on it at home. I'm not in a particular rush for this one. I don't have like a spot on a wall picked out for it or anything, but it would be nice to get some progress. Mostly just so it's not just sat there languishing, because I do love it. Right, put that away. Right. What's next? Okay. Next up, excuse the minor chaos, I'm trying to keep things organised. Next up is my embroidery journal from last year. I started this, I guess I started it in December, and then stitched it for the first 3 months of the year. There we go. So the idea of an embroidery journal, you stitch an icon for each day. Well, that's the way I did it. There are lots of ways of doing it. Some people do like their top 5 moments from a month or whatever. I chose to do an icon per day. You'll quite often see these where someone has drawn a circle and divided it into clock wedges, and they'll fill each clock wedge, each 12th, each section with icons for the month. I chose to do them with this like this connected line, so it was almost like you could see the journey and see the order that they happened in. I'm really proud of this. I'd never really done any embroidery, so the fact that I like, there are some of these in particular that I am very proud of. There are some that other people would not recognise or know what they are, but I knew. I started off really strong with this, stitching every single day in January, and then I think I had that dopamine of like, yeah, you did it, you lasted a whole month, and then my brain thought I was done with it. So in February it was more like every 3 or 4 days, or every week I'd catch up, and I have a little diary that lives in the project bag that I was taking notes in so that I could like reflect every day but then stitch once a week. And then when it got to March, just the whole thing went completely out the window. I kept notes and then caught up frantically on the last day of the month and didn't love that either. And then I continued to sort of keep notes for another month or 2 and then just bailed. I will include a picture of an inspiration of how I'm planning to finish this. So it's on, I'm only showing you part of it, but it is on a big enough piece of fabric that this can be in the middle and the circle will sort of come round all the way around. I need to get a hoop the right size, and then I'm going to finish it like this. So the rest of it will be like a temperature sal, I guess, with a line for each day of the year showing the temperature, and that just feels like a nice way to actually have finished it without trying to retrospectively think of 9 months worth of icons. I really enjoyed this to start with. It was really good for my mental health, taking that time to reflect, like even if it was just something really small, like John happened to have popped to the shops and brought home a bag of cookies, and we sat and scarfed them together and watched a movie after we'd eaten in the evening. Just something really small. I mean, this one is, I helped a neighbour to jumpstart their car, and I think both the neighbour and John commented that they were like really impressed that I knew how to do that. I'll be real, I just googled it. I think I'd done it once before in my life, but I wouldn't know how to do it without Google. But yeah, there's lots on here that that have good memories for me. There are some that look nothing like what I intended them to look like, but it's all good. It worked. It did its job. As Heidi from Stitching Down the Rabbit Hole would say, like, it served its purpose and that's fine. It did its thing. I don't have to finish it. I might not finish it. If I'm being realistic, it would be like a 12 or 13 inch hoop, I think. And I don't really intend to then hang it in the house. So maybe this is one that I just need to accept that it served its purpose and it doesn't need to be a WIP anymore. For now, I'm going to keep it in my WIP box, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a future me decision. Next up, oh, I should have said this was another project bag that I made with some leftover fabric. My niece wanted a set of Barbie, like, teenager themed Barbie clothes for her birthday, so I made her a Barbie themed bag for them to live in. I made myself one to go with it because I was having a Barbie phase. Okay, next up we have Twisted Band Sampler from Northern Expressions Needlework. This is the specialty stitch version, which is why I picked it. I started this, so Tan, the monogamous cross stitcher, and Amy from Sew Make and Create hosted a Stitch the Rainbow sale, and at the same time, I don't think it ever really went anywhere, but Sherry from Just So Sherry talked about doing a Be Not a Dunce sale, which was around like giving things a go and learning as you go, which fit nicely with the specialty stitches. I've changed the colour palette on this. You can see my swatching down the side there, and there's more swatching up here. I'm yet to settle on a full colour palette, but I basically wanted it to be pastels. So I started with this sort of peachy colour, then going down through yellows and starting to get into greens. I really struggled with this because of that colour palette. I wasn't happy with the colour palette I picked. I must have gone through, I'm probably up to about 20 that I've tried. At the bare minimum, it's helped me boost up my DMC stash. But I got partway through the year and was like, just do it, Jess, just pick a colour and go. So I did, and now that it's done and I'm looking at it in retrospect, I'm happy with how that's coming out. Although this isn't the best lighting, but I am happy with how that's coming out, so I do just need to carry on with this, I guess. Yeah. This is another one that really needs to be worked on in a scroll frame or a big nudge. Probably getting to the scroll frame point now with how tall that is. So this will be another work on it at home when I can. And added to the lure to work on this, it lives in my gorgeous Turtle Bay Stitches bag with the keyring that I got at her grand reopening, where she rebranded Turtle Bay Textiles and merged with her fabric shop. So that is one on the work on it this year when I can at home. It was a lot of words to basically say work on it when I can. Yeah, it's on the at home project wheel. One thing I'd say, if you're considering doing this project, definitely get the paper pattern, or if you're getting the PDF one, get it printed. It has the pattern of like where to put the stitches on a completely different page to the how to do the stitches. Working on it from a PDF is a nightmare because you find where you want to put it and then you've got to scroll like 10 pages to get to the how you do the stitch, and then you doubt yourself on which start point of the motif you put your needle in, so you have to scroll back to check where it was and print it out. Just yeah, it's one that Rachel sells in her shop at Talking Dog Stitchery, if you are interested in a hard copy. Next up, so these next two I started on the 12th of July because it was my 3rd of a century being alive, so not my birthday, I was 33 and a third, so I decided to start 3 projects to make a third of a birthday cake, which was a disaster. Don't do that. Just make a cake. I mean, it was delicious. It just exploded, self-destructed. This was one of those starts. I've not got very far on it. I'm considering UFOing this. I really liked the idea of tone on tone, and the colours I picked, I don't know. They're not doing it for me. I don't know if it's because this fabric has so much of, I mean, it shows up on the camera as like more purpley. I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe that's the problem, that the fabric's got more like purpley tones and I saw it as just being pink. But yeah, I've seen a bunch of tone on tone stitching that I really love, and it's made me not love this. There are 2 shades of pink being used in there, I think 915 and 917. But yeah, I can't remember the last time that I wanted to work on this, if I'm being honest. So I might just frog it and reuse the fabric for something else. That's in another me made. I think this was maybe one of my first, and therefore a bit of a sketchy size. I think normally now I make them a little bit taller so that they fit an edge a bit better. That's that one. Next up is another of those 3 starts. So I finished one. I think that one's getting UFO'd, and then this one I will probably carry on with. This is from Vivsters. I think it's called Ottoman tiles. Hold it so it's easier to hold. This is a massive pattern, and I don't know if I will do all of it. So what I've done is started in a corner, and I'm picking my favourite tiles. So I'll do them in like, so I'll do this as like a 5 square cross, and then I'll add like an extra row and then add an extra row. So if I do run out of steam for it, I can just finish it, cut it, and have it as like a smaller piece. She did actually have smaller versions of this pattern, but they were the same price as the big one. So I figured I'd just buy the big one and see how far I get. This is, if I hold up close, you may be able to see, this is 20 count Bellana evenweave from Zweigart. I think this colour was something like deep orange, but I think this colour might have been discontinued. I actually got this from a D-stash, but tracked it down online because I'd never come across 20 count evenweave before. So yeah, this one does take more concentration because it's evenweave, and I therefore don't reach for it all that often, but I do want to carry on with this. It will just be a slow going one. So at the moment this lives in this project bag. It's another me made one, but I do actually have some very like Moroccan tiles vibe. I think it's like pots of spice, that I saw and was immediately like, I need to make a project bag for this project. So at some point this bag will be freed up when I make the other one. Okay, and that is all of my projects that were in my WIP pile at the end of November 2024. So that is 8. I think that's 8. Which means the remaining 23 that I'm going to show you are all starts from the past month. So bear that in mind. There is not a huge amount of work on these, but that's because they're recent. So saying that, now I'm going to point out that I'm about a third done on already. So this one is There Is Room, from the Proper Stitcher. This is another one available from Rachel at Talking Dog Stitchery. I picked this one partly because of this colourway at the bottom. I'm having a bit of a thing for light stitching on dark fabric at the moment. But Rachel gave these as table gifts at Stitch in London, and I saw a couple of the starts and immediately loved it. The words on it say there is room at the table for everyone, and I think that inclusion and equality vibe is something that is like is a very core value for me. It's something that is very important to me, that like everyone is included, like accessibility and inclusion. So yeah, I immediately had to go and buy it. I'm stitching this on 32 count gunmetal from Weeks Dye Works, also from Rachel, and I'm using Baby Blanket, the unopened skein. Baby Blanket, which is this lovely pastel rainbowy kind of colour. Top tip, if you are stitching this on 32 count, you need 3 skeins. I'm gonna have to, I've requested another one from Rachel when her next Classic Colourworks order comes in. I started this I think a day or two early because I'd waited so long for those starts, and this one happened to be at the front of a plastic box on my shelf and I just was so desperate to start it. I'm really happy with how it's coming out so far. This is probably one that I need to work on in good light, so either when I'm out and about but I know that there's going to be like good daylight, I'd be able to sit by a window kind of thing, or that will have to be a work on it at home. Yeah, the video from this point might get a bit choppy. I am going to want to put things away, but for most of these new starts they don't have proper project bags at the moment, so I am putting the fabric and floss in the back of the pattern just to keep things together so we don't get too chaotic, but I might cut those bits out so that you're not stuck listening to the crinkling. Okay, start number 2 for December is so this was a Nashville Needlework marketplace, I think is the right name, released this year from Counting Puddles. It says books are magic. I love that. I don't know, I guess I'm not so much anymore, but as a kid I was an absolute bookworm. It was the one thing I used to do that was, I say in air quotes, naughty. I had a book, a Winnie the Pooh book, and a torch jammed down the mattress at the side of my bed so that I could stay up after my bedtime and read. So knew I had to get that as soon as I saw the release announcement. It's not much of a start. I started in the middle and I really wanted to get up to some of that sort of blackworky moon and stars. I, at the time of starting this, did not have all the colours, so it's also a bit patchy because there were a few colours missing. I was quite fortunate in December, not fortunate because it's a shop that's shutting down, but a shop that sells DMC about half an hour away from me was shutting down. It was a school uniform shop, so I didn't know it was there, but a stitchy friend told me they were shutting down. I managed to get loads of DMC to flesh out my my collection, so I think I probably have filled in some of those gaps. I've really enjoyed working on this so far. This is 36 count Aztec Red from Weeks Dye Works, again from Rachel. The pattern was as well, actually. This is my first time working on 36 count, and it is taxing on the eyes. Yeah, this is another at-home one purely because I need the really good light. You might be able to see there's like more of a glow over this side of the background. I've got a lamp in the corner that I can tilt down and point over my shoulder. So yeah, that's that one. Okay, next up we have Lucy Beam, I Will Find You. So this says, I don't know who used my fabric scissors, but I will find you. And I love that the caption here says just pray. I feel like, yeah, this is a good warning to all the partners out there who don't appreciate the fabric scissors are very important. I'm stitching this, so the wall next to my stitching spot currently has a piece of artwork from my mum. I want to move that somewhere a bit more visible when you walk into the room, because our doorway is sort of there. It's like behind you almost, like on a wall behind, not behind the door. Doesn't matter. I'm turning this into a cross stitch wall, and my husband has dubbed it my meta cross stitch wall. So it's cross stitch about cross stitch. So this is going to be one of them. And I picked the colour scheme. You can see this shelf above me is kind of the core colour of this room. So a mix of blues and greys. Yeah, really enjoying this one. This is 32 count petrol even weave from Lakeside Needlecraft. I'm not sure if it's their own colour or if it's but that's where I got it from. The flosses are fancy flosses from Rachel. I know that the blue is Mediterranean blue, and I can't remember what the other two are, but if you're interested, let me know. I'm stitching the scissor blades like in diagonal stripes. You can probably see where the end of the stitching is there on both blades. And I really like that gives that sort of almost metallic shine, like the light's catching on the blades. I was intending to try and line it up so that the sort of shine on the top and the bottom were like level, but the bottom blade is wider or deeper, so it would have been a massive faff to try and make that happen. Just going for the easy route. Yeah, that's that one. That one's not too bad to work on out and about, actually. I worked on this in the car while I was waiting for an appointment last month. Just because it's fancy flosses. They're not in here at the moment because they're in a later project, but I do tend to keep the fancy flosses with the project, so that's a nice easy one to take with. Oh, apologies if you can hear my washing machine beeping in the background. Next up we have my biggest project. This was a unicorn project for me. GeckoRouge no longer do Medusa doll maker patterns. It's kind of a long story, but I joined the gold club with intent to basically use it to save up for this. When my first voucher came in, I talked myself out of it because a lot of these colours in the middle, the sort of not pastels, but like the skin colour, the sort of beigey dress that she's wearing. I'm normally like a bright colours person, so I talked myself out of it thinking I wouldn't enjoy stitching it. And then before my next voucher, I then talked myself back into it and decided again when my next Gold Club voucher came in I would get it, and in the interim they stopped doing it. You can now get the PDF pattern from Medusa Doll Maker. I've now seen in multiple places, so the Alchemist Stitcher and Dobby from Covered in Floss have both said that they've tried or bought those PDFs and that they're not charted as well as the GeckoRouge version. I decided to be a complete creep. I went on Instagram, found people who had finished this and basically messaged and said like your finish is amazing, I love this pattern, I don't suppose you still have it and you don't want it anymore, would you be willing to sell it to me? And someone very kindly gifted me their paper pattern and the leftover threads so that I could colour match and stitch this. GeckoRouge also do like a PDF add-on, so if you have a paper chart they will let you buy the PDF version as an extra. So I was very fortunate to be able to get a PDF for this one so that I can stitch this from Pattern Keeper. All that's to say, I started this, excuse the zip, and I love it. This lives in, for now, I'm not sure where it's going to live permanently, but this is a Stitch Bunny shop project bag. I won this in her, she did a raffle to raise money for her kids' school to redo their playground. And excuse, it's rolled up a bit weirdly. This is where I'm at. So if you watched my Flossmas, this top corner, we don't talk about this corner. First of all, I started in the wrong place, but it was off the edge of the page, so it's fine. We could just ignore that and start properly in the right place. There are stars in this background, as you can see where I've already put them in, one at the bottom here. But the rest of this is meant to be a solid colour. It's not a solid colour. There's something up with that particular skein of floss, and I'm ignoring the problem. I bought all of the floss. There's like thousands and thousands of stitches of that colour. I bought all of the skeins. I need to go and have a look and see if the others also have this problem. But there's basically like a stripe here and a patch up here that are a much lighter shade of grey when they shouldn't be. And I don't know why. Need to check the rest of the floss and then decide what to do. But this is probably all going to get ripped out and redone at some point. But in the meantime, as you can see, I've been rolling that up to hide it. It's not there. It's not a real problem. And I've been focusing on this banner, so I hold up both. So it's this sort of orangey banners and then the start of the scroll at the top there. I'm really enjoying this. It is a big pattern with a lot of colours. This is something like 2 or 3, maybe 2.5%, I think. But it's nice because this orange area, there's a lot of colours in there, but they're all fairly contained, so it's nice to be able to pick a colour and stitch it just in this area and then put it away and know that I'm not going to need that colour for a while. I literally, my last stitchy session, finished filling in the last few stitches down here. There's a couple of missing stitches because I ran out of a colour. I colour matched all of these in a Hobbycraft and bought all the colours I needed online, but that one colour I had in my stash but didn't have enough and have since run out of it. So my plan now is to start working up this scroll, filling it in, and obviously any colours that are in the scroll here will also get filled in. I'll stitch them. I'm going to re-roll the fabric, but it will mean that if I have one stitch of a colour down here, I'll also do any stitches of it up here until that thread runs out. I find that a really good way to work on confetti projects because by the time I then get up here, a lot of the confetti will have already been done because I'll have done it when I did the 1 or 2 stitches that are down here and then carry on. So really enjoying this. This is another work on it at home because it's got so many colours and I work on it from my sort of master set. It is colour changing quite a lot. I might at some point, like there are some colours in this that have like 36 stitches in the entire project, so I might at some point start doing those extreme cross country just so that I'm zeroing out some of the smaller colours. But this is a nice one because once I've resolved this corner issue, this is also a really good travel stitch. It's quite bulky, but for things like stitchy retreats, it's great because I can have just a single colour, and as long as I've pre-done some of the stars in the background, it is literally just back and forth diagonal stripes. So it's a good one for like having a wander around and chatting to people, sitting at other tables for a little bit, because I can still be bashing through a bunch of those stitches. So really, really happy with this one, like over the moon to have been able to get a copy of the pattern. I'm really looking forward to working on that during the year. Okay, next up is a project I did not choose for myself. This was a gift from some of my lovely stitchy friends, and in particular Sophie from Turtle Bay Textiles. We were at a stitchy day down in Cardiff, one of the Loopy Loo stitchy days, and I was talking to one of my table mates about this whole plan of doing all these starts in December, and Soph asked if she could pick one of my starts. And most people think that I'm nuts for having done the 24 starts in 1 month, but Soph matches my energy when it comes to the nuts. So she disappeared off to hers and Rachel, both had tables selling things, and she came back with a wrapped package, wrapped in a piece of fabric, tied with a piece of ribbon, and literally like there was maybe 3 minutes between her asking if she could pick one of them and her presenting me this package. I managed to not peak for 2.5 months, and then got the joy of opening this. Later on that same day, Rachel, the talking dog stitcher from Talking Dog Stitchery, came and presented me with a fistful of floss and kind of just went, I think you'll be needing these. So 6 different colours, and when I opened this pattern and found out what it was, got told that the girls had each picked one of these colours. So I've written on them, so for example Shelley had this sort of creamy white because she got married that month. Sherry picked this teal. There's colours here for Soph from Turtle Bay, Soph from Soph, Rachel, and they picked a colour for me as well. So yeah, really love these. And the idea being that I use these colours for an element of each of these ladies. I think I was having a really like rough week when I opened this, so this was amazing, but I wasn't feeling up to any creative decisions, so all I've done so far is some border, and I've just picked these fancy variegated flosses from my stash. And I haven't decided yet who's going to be which person, except for this little lady in the white dress is the most petite of the set. And also she's holding ornaments on her arms, but when I first looked at it, I mistook them for small shopping bags. So this one is definitely Sherry. She knows why. If you haven't watched Sherry's video about the, oh my gosh, what's it called? The big stitching, is it knitting and stitching show? Harrogate, there we go. She had a story about having so many bags, but also she is petite and she's perfect for it, and we love her for it. But yeah, really excited to stitch this over the coming year. And that again lives in a me-made Barbie bag, which seems perfect actually, because much as these are Barbie, they've got like very like motivational, like imagine big, look out wild, dream it, do it, fearless, I've got this. And this very much gives me vibes of some of those friends who are just hype women. We hype each other up. Yeah, really grateful for the friends that I've made through cross stitch this year. Right, next up we have a not very big start that is probably going to be a restart, but I will show you nonetheless. So this is, I think it's called Astronaut and T-Rex. I'll pop in a picture because I don't have one handy. That's terrible. Project bag behind it. Do you know what? I came prepared for this. I've had a board here the whole time that I've not been using. So it's a really little start just on the, oh, maybe the board wasn't such a good idea. Here we go. Really small start on the T-Rex's head. But I think I've decided that black is a bit of a boring fabric for this. So I'm, yeah, going to restart that on something a bit more interesting. We shall see. Oh. But for now, that's staying in the WIP box to remind me that I started it. Cool. Next, I'm trying to get through them fairly quickly because we're almost at an hour. Or I did a bit on a separate clip, so probably over an hour at this point. That's a finish that shouldn't be in there. Chaos. Okay, so this is Quaker Snowflakes. I was inspired to start this by Sherry's stitching of this, which she also has done on like a dark blue with pale floss. I don't know how well it will show, but this is beaded. They are teeny tiny, size 11.0 delicas. There they are in the packet. So I've got two colours. I think the white is 201 and the blue is 0044. And I'm planning to use that blue for the birds at the bottom. I think it's bird and the trees that are done in a different colour. Really enjoying this, really loving the light stitching on dark fabric at the moment. There are a number of those in this. I guess There Is Room at the start was the same kind of vibe, and I think there's two or three in my 12 by 12. This is one of the places that I'm using that white from the GeckoRouge kit, where I'm not going to stitch the background. Just doesn't really matter what shade of white it is to stitch white beads onto this, as long as it's consistent, I guess. This lives in another Turtle Bay Textiles mini project bag. This one was a gift, and Sophie gifted me this to store my little stockings in, but I really don't want to put this gorgeous project bag in a box with my Christmas stuff and not see it for 11 months. So I'm hijacking it for this to live in, and I'll find something a bit more generic for the stockings to go in. Cool. Next up we have, so this next one is from Hoops and Crosses. The artwork is by Katie Abbey. Sorry, I should learn how to say that one. And this is it just called Frog? I know that he's been named Ken. And when this is finished, it'll have a rainbow over the top of the frog that says, oh, I have no idea what the hap is fucking, which is very me. The fabric is Dreaming of Summer 18 count print from Stitch Bunny. I thought it went quite well with the psychedelic kind of rainbow frog. I really love that one. There's also, I want to say there's an octopus that says love and light but don't fuck with me, which is next on my list when this is done. This lives in this cute little project bag that was part of my Advent exchange, which I love. And this is one of those where I've got like a little tin inside. I think this came from a Birmingham Stitchy Day, and it's just got a little needle minder. Excuse the raggedy ends, so I didn't leave them over my all over my in-laws house. It's got a little needle minder with a needle on it and a pair of scissors, so that this lives in the project bag. So this is a grab it and go, and I just keep one or two colours in there at a time. Yeah, so that's one of the nice easy grab and go ones. Okay, next up we have a beaded project. I'm tempted to not count this as a WIP, not because it's not in progress, but because it's not cross stitch. I recently, as in like yesterday, decided to remove my one crochet project from my WIP list as well. But this is beaded candy canes from the Spellbound Bead company. I'm very fortunate to be easy driving distance from their physical shop, so I have been able to go in and pick beads myself. But this one I got from, oh, there's a needle on this, hang on, let's keep hold of that. I bought this at the NEC Creative Craft Show, and you can see I've started one of the candy canes. It's a bit wonky at the moment, but when I finished the beading, you put like a flexible metal core through the middle, which will help it hold its shape a bit better. Really enjoying that. It's something a bit different. It's a bit fiddly to work on, but you can see it's got 3 colours of beads in there, the greens, reds and whites, and it makes the 3 candy canes using the 3 possible pairings of those colours. So yeah, hopefully next year they'll be done to hang and decorate our house for Christmas. Next up, the penultimate 12 starts of Christmas start is in this project bag by me. I don't know where this fabric came from, unfortunately. I got it at the Creative Craft Show and didn't take a note of the shop name. But yeah, it's my favourite colour scheme and it's perfect for this, because this is the bag that all of my Meta cross stitch projects will live in. So they've even got a Meta cross stitch bag. This is Light Sampler from Owl Forest Embroidery. I'm stitching this using the Owl Forest DMC base threads, and it's being stitched on Gothic by Picture This Plus, which I think I ordered it as an 18 count, but because it's hand dyed it's probably closer to a 20 or 19 count. Stitching this 1/1, really loving it. I love the variegation. I'm enjoying working with the threads. They are gorgeous. Alfie, you're very stabby in the foot department right now. You can't see him, but he's like ninja crawling across my lap as I talk. So yeah, gorgeous threads. Really enjoying how that one's coming out. Oh, I've got loose threads that I've missed putting back in bags. This is another one where I've got a little tin with a pair of scissors and a needle minder. This was a Bothy Threads advent thing, gift. So that's another one. Because I work on that in hand, even though it's dark fabric, because it's Aida, I find it quite easy really to like find the holes. Like you get used to it. Like if you do sewing method, doing the backup is just muscle memory after a while. So you almost don't need to be able to see the holes, which sounds a bit nuts really when I say it out loud. The last of the 12 starts of Christmas is the most pathetic, because I got like, I think this is literally like 14 stitches or something silly like that, and decided the colours were a mistake. So this, I'll put a picture of the pattern up, but this is going to be Autistic AF, and I thought tone on tone would look really cool, but the majority, I don't know if you can even see it, there's like 4 stitches here that are sort of yellow. The majority of the pattern is that colour, so you literally can't see it. So I need to either tweak the colours or change the fabric. But because this was the last of the starts and I was ill and it was my last day of work and I also needed to get ready to go to the in-laws the next day, I wasn't feeling life at that point. So I recognised that this was not going to come out how I had hoped and just put a pin in it. So I will come back to this, and I probably will still put it on this fabric. I maybe just need to tweak the floss colours to make it work a bit better. But I really love, so that one's from Bees on Toast shop, and I really love a lot of her patterns. She does some cool black work. I think she's got a castle and a witch's house, I want to say. She's also got some cool D&D ones, some pride ones, some autism related ones, so definitely go check her shop out. Right, so that was the 12, well, that was 11 of the 12 starts. This is the one I've not shown you because it's a finish, not a WIP. So that was the 12 starts running up to Christmas, and then we have yesterday's 12 starts, which, bearing in mind I spent an hour on each of these, they're not going to be that impressive, but I'm really excited for them nonetheless. The first is this Aurora Borealis kit from Mill Hill. It's a buttons and beads, so it's got a fancy star bead to go in there, and this is my start. So not very big at all, but considering I only spent an hour on this, and I had to go to the shop early on in the day, so I probably only actually spent about 35-40 minutes on this. I'm pretty happy with that. I've got this on a Bothy Threads organiser, which is transparent, so it just looks like a tangle of threads, but I promise they're organised. And then there's beads in here, including some glow-in-the-dark ones, which I'm quite excited for. But yeah, I was inspired to do this one having seen Beth from Stitch with Beth. She has an Aurora project that I've seen her stitching on at several stitchy days, and it just, yeah, it made me really want to stitch one of these. So really excited to have actually started that one now. Okay, start number 2 is this Seize the Needle from Silver Creek Samplers. So it says Carpe Acus. Ecus, don't speak Latin, sees the needle. And I'm doing this, I'm doing just the front of this to go on the Meta cross stitch wool, but you can also make it into this little pouch with that on the front and your name and the year on the back. So I will probably be stitching this twice, but for now, part of my preparing for the 12 by 12 was for some of the patterns using heat erasable pen to basically draw the pattern on, so that it was as easy as possible stitching in the moment. And I might continue doing that for a couple of these small ones to make them even more portable. This will be a great one for chucking in a bag. It's got the, oh, where's the other tag? It's got the 2 fancy flosses I'm planning to use for it, which are the same 2 that I've used for the I Will Find You scissors. So Mediterranean Sea and Uniform Blue, which ironically is grey. So yeah, that will be a good one for just chucking in a bag and going. And this one will live in that same bobbin bag. Okay, start number 3 from the 12 by 12 is another fairly pathetic start, to be honest. This is, I think the pattern is just Buzz from Hands On Design. It's a block party, so the idea is you stitch it into this sort of cubey block thing and use it as a pincushion. I was very kindly gifted this by Rachel for Christmas, and it has in the back there, I've got the pins and the fancy flosses, and then this little square of fabric goes in the middle at the top there. I'm stitching this on it's Picture This Plus, but I cannot think of the name. It's not Gothic. What was the other one? Mystic. And it's kind of hard to see, but all I've done is the outline. So I think these get whip stitched together, so you outline the front, the top and the bottom even, and then you do the long strip and outline it and you whip stitch the whole thing together. So this is either a fully finished bottom or just the outline of a top. But I've got, just because of the way that this fabric got used for another project, I've got quite a long strip here, so it's quite handy to be able to use those little squares, to use that strip for those squares. Make use of that little offcut essentially. But yeah, really enjoying this one. I will say I'm not super loving how the pattern is laid out and printed on this. It reminds me a bit of the Annie B's stockings, where it's a printed pattern, but like the grid is printed in a really weird way. So rather than like every 10th line being bold, every 10th line is bold, but then random lines in between are also bold. It just makes it a little bit hard to count and figure out where you are. And if you're doing like a long straight, you can see on here on the top there's like a long straight at each side and then like a curve around the corner. But just knowing how many stitches that needs to be is quite hard when there's like random bold lines all over the place on the grid. So we'll see how that one goes. I'm a little bit hesitant just based on how the pattern is, but we shall see. I'm gonna do the sensible thing and put that one away. Next up is my first ever 40 count pattern. And this one is probably going, oh god, what's happened there? Got a magnet disaster going on. So the start on this is going to be nigh on impossible to see. This is Fairy Dust from Nimu. It's the name of the designer. I've never really been a fancy lady, fairy, mermaid kind of person. Stitch Bunny, Lauren, I think got this from a D-stash at a retreat when she showed it on her Flosstube. Just loved it. It reminds me a little bit of kind of the flower fairy books that I grew up with. But yeah, I just really like how delicate it is. It is though very tone on tone, so it shows up a little bit better on here because of the shadows, but that stitching is almost identical in colour. This is a piece of 40 count from Crafty Kate. It's, I want to say Highland Goo is the name. This was a seconds piece because it has a tiny dye spot somewhere, but it's like right on the edge of the fabric. But I figured for my first time trying 40 count, it was a nice bargain. So yeah, that bit there is just at the tip of her wing here. So I mean, even on the printout, you can barely see it. So I'm not that fussed that it's tone on tone. I think that's kind of the vibe, like it's the effect that the pattern is going for. I actually really loved doing this. It's only half stitches, which is what the pattern calls for that bit of the wings. But I think it's going to give a really pretty, almost like iridescent effect. So yeah, really happy with that so far. It's 40 count, so again, it's probably going to have to be a work on it at home kind of piece. That shows up so much better on camera than it does in person. Yeah, probably a work at home piece because it is 40 count, but really enjoying it. And this is in one of my me-made fairy mushroom project bags. Cool. Let's get that back in its bag. Gathering a small pile of things that have not made it back into their project bags I'm gonna have to deal with after this. Okay, next up is another teeny tiny start. They're all teeny tiny starts at this point. I do want to, oh god, fish this back out. So believe it or not, these are the same piece of fabric. This is how it came to me. It was on a de-stash table at, I can't remember which retreat, but it was at a de-stash retreat. I decided to over dye it with the intent or the hope that the orange would show through a bit more, and that this would give like a sunset through the trees kind of vibe. It didn't really work out. The blue kind of took a lot more to the orangey areas, I guess. There are places where you can see that there's sort of a yellow mottle, I guess. But I've made a start on this at the very bottom with the intent that I might still go and buy a bottle of orange dye, and I might like hand paint it onto some of these whiter areas to try and still get that sunset or sunrise through the trees kind of effect. So for now, this is Cabin in the Woods with a teeny tiny start on the south compass point at the bottom there. But I'm really excited to do this. I've only, I think, done one Flossabilities pattern before, but when this came out, I absolutely loved it. And I kept asking people, like, am I insane to put that project on this? And people pointed out that the stars wouldn't show up. So this was my compromise. It didn't quite go to plan. I also realised as I started stitching on this, I rinsed it out really thoroughly, but I intended to put this through the washing machine as well. After I dyed it, just to be sure, because I've had issues before on to be fair, I think it was a printed fabric rather than a hand dyed one, but as I pulled the thread through, the colour was coming off onto my thread. So the start of the thread was really clean and the correct colour. The further along the strand I got, the murkier it got. So although I've started this, it's only 80 stitches. I might rip that out, do some more fabric dyeing and machine wash this just to be sure, because I wouldn't want to put all that effort into such a beautiful project and realise that the thread's coming out murky. Really excited to work on that one though. And that, again, despite it being a dark fabric, because I'm stitching on it in hand, feels like it's not too bad of a project to take with, and it's not that many colours. This is it says on the label, hobby gift. I think it was just a commercial one that I got from what's the name of the shop? Betty Stitch Kit, which is my nearest local needlework shop. Cool, that's that one. Next up we have Introvertal Turtle. It's not the name of the actual pattern. This is a, I want to say it's a white raven pattern. I might have completely made that up. I'll pop the picture in the details, obviously. This is the start. This is another one that I drew the pattern on to make it, do you know what, it's easier. So this is going to be a turtle in its shell, and I think the original pattern has written underneath, I'm introverting. I am rearranging it to say on this side, please come back later, I'm introverting. And I'm going to make this a flat fold that I can take to retreat, so that when I'm having a bit of I'm all peopled out, I just need half an hour, I can put my headphones in, pop this on the table in front of me, and if people try and come over and chat, I know that it's well-meaning, that people are wanting to check in and make sure I'm okay, especially if I'm putting headphones on and sitting and ignoring everyone. But this just feels like it would be a nice comedic way to be able to ask people to come back later without offending anyone, and also without having to take my headphones out and people, which is the thing I'm trying to avoid at that moment in time. I think this is going to be a nice quick one. Again, I started outlining in the pen and figured I wasn't going to get more than that done, but I might continue. I might just finish off the outline in the pen, so that this again is a grab it and go, don't need a pattern kind of project. Yeah, quite proud of the introvertal turtle name for that one though. Right, back in its bag it goes. Again, some of these are just living in plastic bags at the moment, because going from 8 WIPs to 31 WIPs in 1 month, too many project bags to try and find or make or buy. Some of them will get doubled up, I'm sure. Right, let's find the page that I'm not showing you the pattern. This is one of my first ones that I'm doing from a magazine. So this is called, I actually have a name, Owl Hoop, Winter Florals. I can't actually see what the name of the project is. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna call it Owl Hoop. What is this one? I've never stitched with that double, like the inset hoop before. I don't know what it was about this project. This was kind of a last minute addition to the plan, but yeah, I quite like that. I am stitching this on an 18 count piece of Aida from the Stitch Bunny shop. You can tell from the highlighter yellow edging, and I've just done, try and hold it, this flower in the middle at the top. I'm quite proud that I got that done actually in my 1 hour, because that's 5 different colours. I'm stitching this 1/1, which is my go-to at the moment for anything 18 count or over. I am going to see if I can get this pattern digitally, and if not, I will be trying to take some very careful photos from the magazine and do the photo import on Pattern Keeper, because I did find this really hard to work from. I ended up halfway through the hour having to take a photo of the pattern so that I could have it bigger, because it's just a little bit too small for my eyes in the magazine, and also because it's paper I had to have it like on my lap, and the bit I was looking at was furthest away, and it was just a bit of a faff. So I ended up taking a picture of that one flower so that I could zoom in on my tablet. But if I can get this into Pattern Keeper, that would really help make that go a little bit more smoothly. Yeah, that's that one. Again, no project bag for that. Part of doing this WIP parade is probably going to be afterwards going through and getting organised, especially to get the new WIPs fitting into my WIP box rather than having 2 boxes going on. Next up is, I guess, a designed by me, but very much inspired by a pattern or a project that I saw someone else stitch on a Facebook group, which I'll include here because I don't have a finished picture of what this is going to look like. At the moment, it is just a black circle of felt stitched onto some more Dreaming of Summer Stitch Bunny 18 count. The key part of this is these sparkly plastic beads, and you'll see on the picture what they're for. This is going to be a soot sprite. So from the film Spirited Away, soot sprites help run the hot water generator. They fill the coal burner, I guess, with coal, and they get fed these little stars. So I saw the inspiration post for this like 2 years ago, and I have been looking for these stars ever since. And I finally found them at the Creative Craft Show, so really happy to be able to crack on with that one. Next up we have Advice from a Sunflower. This is one that I won in a giveaway from Sherry. It says rise and shine and hold your head high. And that's an Annie B's folk art. I'm freestyling the colours on this. So I've just started in that top left corner with some of the sunflower stitched using sunflower. This is one that I've taken a photo of the pattern to get it into Pattern Keeper, just for my own sanity, and it lives in this bee and flower themed project bag that Rachel, Talking Dog Stitchery, made for me. We did a bit of a bag exchange when we did our round robin earlier in the year. Really enjoying that one. It is, I think in stitching it, I'm realising that this is 14. I feel like I've not stitched on 14 count for a while, so I'm sketchy on how big it looks. This is definitely not 18 count, which is what I thought it was, so I do need to remeasure and just double check that this fabric is big enough. Just it's definitely long, but I don't know if it's wide enough. I think it is. I think probably past me knew that it was 14 count, and I've just forgotten that in the interim, but just it made me panic slightly that it's going to be too narrow. But yeah, enjoying that one so far. It's a nice one in that it's fairly blocky colours, so it's nice and easy stitching. Back in the bag, that bag is so perfect for it. Right, next up, I'm gonna stay organised. Not got many to go. So next up we have Into a Spiral. So this one says, going into a spiral, anyone want anything or need anything? I'll pop the picture up because I can't remember exactly what it says. This is another one that it's another one on Stitch Bunny, 18 count, Dreaming of Summer. I got a big piece of this and it just fit too well on too many of the projects not to make use of it. And this is another one where I'd heat erasable pen like drawn the pattern on, so it's effectively a printed pattern. And again, I might continue doing that for this one, at least for the text, to just make it a nice easy grab and go 310 easy peasy project. Definitely was inspired for that one. I'm gonna find the name and the picture because I literally was having a conversation with them this morning about it. Definitely was inspired on this one by seeing Claire from tell me what Claire from Stitchy McStitchface had stitched and finished this, and there we go. I think the choice of fabric made all the difference. I think the mock-up doesn't really do this justice. So yeah, thank you Claire for the inspiration. that is that one. Let's put that away. We're down to the last one. Last one. Okay. Oh, the box is about to fall over. This is another one in a bag made by me, with some gorgeous Turtle Bay Textiles fabric on the inside there. This is Greenhouse of Oddities, and I thought the odd mechanical bees were perfect for it. This is 32 count Tiger's Eye, and I have made the rather insane decision. This was a last minute, like, I picked up my needle and was like, I didn't think ahead whether I was going to do 1/2 or 2/2. And I was like, basically I've been really enjoying 1/1 recently on like aida. And I started doing this 1/2 because I prefer the one strand and wasn't liking the coverage. So kind of, but didn't want to do 2/2. So I've made the slightly insane choice to start this 1/1 on 32 count. So this is going to be the Greenhouse of Oddities from Lola Crow. And I've started this as part of Emma and Joe from Chromatic Stitching and Belushi Stitches are going to be doing this as a stitch along for 2025. It is very slow going. This is going to be another one that I have to work on at home because it is very, very intricate. And 1/1 on 32 count is very small, but I think it's going to look awesome. I'm really happy with this fabric choice. Again, it's a bit nuts. I think there's one plant that is quite similar colours that I might have to just darken up a shade or two to make sure that they pop, or maybe just add some back stitch, I'm not sure, but that's a future me problem. I'm going to have to swap this to a smaller hoop so that it fits in this bag. But yeah, really enjoyed that so far, but it's gonna be work. Yeah, finishing off with some insanity. Not much is new there though, so I think that's everything. I'm really impressed that I got through those in the time that I did. Alfie has just recognised my I'm saying goodbye voice and gotten up to come. You want to come over? Thinking about it. You want to come say goodbye? Come on. Yeah, that's all of my WIPs. I'm impressed that I've gotten through those as quickly as I have. I appreciate it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. If there's any of those that I missed information about, hopefully it will have been on the banner at the bottom, but if I've missed anything, let me know. I think there's too many to put all of the details in the description box, but happy to answer any questions. Let me know if you're stitching any of these as well. Like, I love seeing other people's progress. It always motivates me to get that project out and get some more stitches on it. So yeah, let me know your Instagram and things if you've got any of these projects in your WIP pile. Yeah, I'm gonna go try and find homes for the bits that have escaped during that. I might use this as an opportunity to get out my spare WIP bags as well and try and get some of these projects into appropriate WIP bags, and then yeah, I'll get editing and hopefully get this up in the next day or two. Thank you so much if you've stuck with me this far. I hope you've enjoyed seeing what I'm working on, and yeah, I look forward to sharing progress with you throughout the year. Happy stitching. Bye.